Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Who misses NBA betting? I know I do, and we've got Summer League right around the corner here. But how do you bet on fringe NBA players and rookies? That's what I'm here for. I went ahead and looked at all 30 teams, ranked the 30 Summer League teams, obviously much different rosters than the regular season. Also went through the key players on each squad, so you know who to bet on, which props specifically. I'll tell you about which props I'm going to be monitoring for each of these players that are ones that we can actually bank on betting on while they're in Summer League. I've also got pro bettor Kareem K on the show with me for this. He's going to be helping me break down the top 8 teams that we have here in our rankings and a few of the players that he'll be eyeing as well, obviously. Also, a few of these tips and strategies that you need to know. Things like which players are actually going to play. Things like which players might not be there for the entirety of Summer League. The first week of Summer League, for instance, once we get to Vegas, much different than the other week that we have there for the second week and the final one of the tournament. A lot of good players taken off. So I'm going to go through the number 30 through number 9, and then bring Kareem on to help us with the final 8. A couple of things to keep in mind, though, and this is what I've learned from being in Vegas for this tournament for the last 2 seasons, starting with the rosters. Lineups are going to be finicky. So while in the NBA during the regular season really behooves you to bet early and get ahead of lines that you think might be incorrect, not necessarily the case once you get to Vegas for the Summer League tourney. That's where you want to be a little bit more prudent. Wait to find out who is actually going to be playing today, because there's a lot of times where those rosters or lineups won't be coming out until about 20 minutes before game time. Then you've got real quick, scurried action that you need to get your bets in, but it's also better than betting on a team that you think is like clearly better, and then they don't play any of their starters, which obviously is not true NBA players necessarily, but backups and the starters who are in the Summer League, right? The top players are going to leave before the second week starts. I mentioned that. We saw that with Wemby last season. We're going to see that this season, I think, with guys like Brandon Miller, who's out there. He's probably going to show that he's too good. Last year, we saw that with like Jabari Smith Jr. on the Rockets, right? It was like he was out there as like a second-year player who was clearly way better than everybody and did not belong in Summer League, belonged in the NBA, where he had a pretty good season for the Rockets. So keep that in mind. And then just avoid futures. I wouldn't place anything on those longer term future bets for who's going to win, who might win MVP, whatever. Like I said, guys aren't going to necessarily be getting the amount of run that they normally would, right? And they're also not necessarily playing to win all the time. Now, it'll be competitive, and the guys who are on the floor are playing to win, but the coaches aren't necessarily playing to win over playing to see who can really get out there and show them something for the regular season, right? Other thing to keep in mind for players to watch. These are some pretty, solid guidelines to help you with who you can predict is going to break out and have a really big Summer League. Second-year players with good rookie seasons. That's number 1. Pretty easy. Jabari Smith Jr. is another great example of that, right? And there were a couple other guys. Keegan Murray, another wonderful example from last season, was a second-year player, way better than everybody at Summer League. Looked like LeBron, basically, out there scoring 40 points in those Summer League games. So he was pretty good as a rookie and showed flashes of being capable as an NBA player as a rookie. And by the end of that season, he was a legit NBA rotational player starting for the Kings, who ended up making the playoffs, and he got minutes in the playoffs. So with all that experience in mind, like 2 minutes of NBA experience is probably worth games of experience in the G League or in the Summer League, right? So if you do find a player who is a second-year player, or the second one here, a journeyman who's proven that they can at least play in the NBA this year, probably guys like David Roddy, maybe De'Aaron Sebron. These are guys who have shown flashes of being capable of playing in NBA rotations, and that experience has propelled them to being way better than all of the other players that we've got here. So let's start with number 30 and go through each and every one of these teams real quick and get the key players that you need to watch for. Number 30, a team that has been in the headlines recently, not for the best reasons at all, which is this Clippers squad that I'm pretty low on for the regular season and definitely for this Summer League action as well. The 2 players that I do want to highlight here are Kobe Brown and Jordan Miller, both second-year players. You're going to see Kobe Brown probably have a bit of success if he can stay healthy, which he's already healthy going to Vegas. He's already in Vegas as I'm recording this. So we know he's probably good to go. Should be getting a lot of burn. Not one of those players that's going to be leaving early. We should see him there for both weeks. He needs the run here for this squad. He's in line to be able to get some minutes alongside James Harden. We don't really know what's happening with Russ Westbrook yet. So there might actually be some minutes for Kobe Brown. It'd be good to be able to see him. He was pretty good last year in the G League. Didn't really get much time on the Clips, but overall, bullying competition in the summer league is going to be what I think is his calling card. So he should be able to get to the basket. We can bet points, rebounds, and assists for him. He did dime up last year when he played in those G League games. So keep that in mind. Jordan Miller, another player. I should mention the G League is a good example, though, of the type of competition that you can expect in the summer league. So if you see a player do really well, exceptionally well, in the G League, I would say summer league's probably a little bit better. You're going to get a few more vets of about 4 years that are a little bit better than the young guys in the G League. But Jordan Miller did have a really good season in the G League last year. 21 points, basically 6 boards, 2 dimes. So I think you can bet points and rebounds for him. He's another guy that I like to be getting a lot of minutes. There's no worry that he needs to like rest and make sure he doesn't get hurt for the regular season. He's probably not going to be a very big part of the Clippers regular season unless he's able to pull some really nice numbers out of his butt here in the summer league. Next up, we got the Mavs, the defending Western Conference champs. Not very high on this team. I will not be spending time watching them when I'm in Vegas. I promise you that. I also won't be really betting on very much to do with them except for fading them and betting against them. I think they're terrible. This is a bad roster, but Olivier Maxence Prosper is the second-year player for them that could have a nice summer league here. He was pretty good in the G League, but mostly was battling injuries and couldn't even really get on the floor there. So I think they're going to give him a lot of summer league minutes because of the fact that he's ripe for being able to take a leap. But there's not that much room for him on the roster unless he can prove himself better than some of the acquisitions that they've made. He is sort of a bigger forward who's a little bit like a Bilal Coulibaly on the Wizards in terms of his athleticism and his length. Not the best outside shot by any means, so he's going to rely on that athleticism to get to the rim. I'd be betting points and rebounds for him. And right back to LA we go, this time for the Lakers, who are the third worst summer league team in my opinion. You've got Dalton Knecht and Bronny James, the two guys I'm highlighting here. Bronny is because I just don't think he's going to be doing much. We already saw him score 3 points in basically, I think he had 3 and like 6 in the first 2 games of the California Classic that he played in with the Lakers, which is like 1 week before everyone gets to Vegas. There's a tournament in Salt Lake City, a tournament in Golden State and Sacramento for the California teams. It doesn't really matter much, but either way, he wasn't even able to get the 7.5 point prop that he had for this last game that they just played, losing to the Heat. Not really much to say. Don't want to trash the kid. Like, good for him that he got drafted and that he's playing with his dad. But his dad is a famous NBA player. That's why he's in the league right now. Let's move past it. Dalton Knecht, 17th overall. Pretty big steal, according to some people. A lot of guys, a lot of people projecting the draft and mocking it actually had Dalton Knecht in the top 10 at one point, as high as maybe 6. And he didn't do that. He went down to 17th. But he's a very big wing who's a very good shooter and a good rebounder for someone his size as well, about 6'7", likes to play out on the perimeter, but can get those defensive boards because of his size and usually matched up with someone who's a little bit smaller. In the NBA, not going to have nearly the size advantage over other guys, but 6'7" ain't nothing to sneeze at as far as being able to get your shot off. I like him for points and threes and probably some rebounds as well. If you get that rebound prop at around like 5+, 6+, and you can get that for some good money or at least close to even money, that's going to be about where I'm betting Dalton Knecht. Moving on to Philly, number 27. Couple guys to talk about here that are looking pretty good, actually, honestly. I mean, Ricky Council IV, definitely one of those dudes that probably belongs at the end of an NBA bench, but hasn't really been able to find too much time outside of garbage minutes or games where a lot of players are hurt for the 76ers. Hasn't really been able to get that burn yet in the league. Still, much better than everybody in this particular league, in the summer league. Bully ball all over the place, will be getting some open shots, and the confidence comes for guys who know that they belong in the NBA, but are playing against guys who are not necessarily true NBA competition like you're going to see in summer league. That's where guys like Ricky Council really take advantage, and bully ball is truly the word, because they just use their confidence to get to the rim, essentially. For Jared McCain, he's also looked really good in the first couple games that Philly played in that Salt Lake City tournament that I was mentioning here that's going on this week, actually wrapping up right before Summer League in Vegas starts. McCain has shown himself to be a really capable rookie already. Been playing lots of minutes on a pretty weak team so far. There's not that much to look at here for Philly, who's ripe with veterans. That's who's at the top of their depth chart, right? But for Jared McCain, he's looked pretty in control. Also, a good three-point shooter, as we know, and he'll take them. He missed all of his threes in the very first game he played, but bounced back with hitting a couple in the next one. I think you can bet points and assists and threes for Jared McCain. Ricky Council, I'll just be betting like some 25+ point games for him. I think he's going to show out and take advantage of the situation that he's in. So points, and you can throw some rebounds at about 6 or 7 in there as well. Coming in at 26, we've got the Thunder. This is not the same team as last year where you had big time players that were actually getting minutes and dominating for OKC, and young guys. You even saw Chet Holmgren obviously there as well. But really what we're looking at here now is just these two. These are the main two dudes that I'm looking at in terms of maybe betting on for the Thunder. Ousmane Dieng, he's proven to be pretty decent in the NBA and very good in the G League as well, and does a little bit of everything as like a very springy, long, athletic wing who can dribble a bit, find some open guys, but he's a big forward basically, who's a little bit undersized for power forward, a little bit oversized for small forward, so we just sort of call him a tweener wing who's really good. So I think you can take him for points, rebounds, and assists in this tournament. And then Dylan Jones, the rook, also should be pretty good in the league. Might be a little bit undersized for the regular season right now, but in summer league, he's plenty big enough and certainly athletic and versatile enough to be able to get his. I'm sticking to rebounds. His offensive game is a little bit suspect, let's say, needs a lot of polish. So for now, we're just going to take rebounds for this big leaper, really, who's going to be getting up there to get those boards in Vegas. 25, got the Knickerbockers here, and we're going with the two rooks. That's the only real dudes that are going to be showing up for the Knicks. Not really any vets or anybody like that, like the journeymen that we talked about. We've got Pacome Dadier. He is the 25th pick in 2024. He looks good. He's a smooth player. Like, he's got a nice shot from deep. He can get to the rim when he's running downhill, has a little head of speed, and he's pretty good off the ball. So if he gets a look from deep, not many guys are going to be able to get a hand in his face because he's so tall. But I'm going to wait and see before betting on him. I don't really know what to expect. I've seen some tape, but it's France and the French league and stuff like that. I just don't know enough about him right now other than seeing him on tape. So he's a wait and see for me. Tyler Kolek is someone I think you can bet on in this tournament to get his assists and his threes, right? He's coming out of Marquette, and he is a true point guard. But if you leave him open, he'll hit the damn thing, right? He's a sharpshooter for sure. So I think he's a guy who's going to be a little bit smarter than maybe the years that he has under his belt so far. Someone that you can bank on to be running the offense for the entire summer league for this Knicks squad. He'll be there both weeks. I think he'll be getting a lot of run, be getting a good amount of involvement in the offense as the main ball handler. So you can take him for some assists and 3-point props here in this tournament moving forward. In the 24, we got the Suns, and we've got two guys to highlight here. Still not very good, impressive summer league roster, but you've got the rook Ryan Dunn, and you've got David Roddy, big body Roddy. Those are two guys that I think you can bet on in this one. Well, let me be more specific. Ryan Dunn is a wait and see as well. The rook, really athletic dude, really solid on defense. I didn't choose this image by accident. Dude is shredded and is big enough to play in the league as an oversized forward right now. But I just don't really know that I didn't see what I would want to see from tape from him in college, where he played at Virginia. It was a lot slower, as we know. That's a team that wants to play like, I mean, if the games average like 100 points, Virginia's totally fine with that because they're defensive minded and they kind of have handcuffs on. They're not really allowed to get out in transition and do what they will. Ryan Dunn's someone who's going to benefit from playing in the league probably more than he did in college because of his play style, which is get out in space, and I'm more athletic than most people who can actually hang with me in my size, right? So we'll wait and see, but maybe some points and probably some rebounds coming for Ryan Dunn in this tourney. And then Big Body Roddy is like the definition of a dude who's too good for summer league and not good enough for the NBA. It seems like he has not been able to maintain any kind of consistency in the league. He now finds himself on this Sun squad, probably not going to get much run in the regular season, but he's better than the players at summer league. So you've got to take him to bully guys down low. He's fine playing down low, like back to the basket guard almost, but also driving to the rim is somebody that he should have some success doing that against the summer league competition. And he'll be taking those open spot up threes. So I think you can take him for points and assists and threes. I want to say rebounds, but let's wait and see if he is actually going to be trying hard enough to get boards in this summer league tournament. Another team I'm not very impressed with, got the Bulls at 23, but they do have a couple of guys that were at least worth mentioning. The rook, Matas Buzelis, who went 11th. He was actually considered a possible pick inside the top 10, but ended up going just outside of it. Really tall, versatile big man. Not as good of a shooter as you might want. Did make some threes from deep. 14 points in the G League last year for the Ignite, 6.5 boards, and 2.1 blocks. So he's really he's about 6'10". So he's really like an undersized in terms of weight style of forward or even center, because he will block shots, and a lot of them are coming off of other players and blocking another guy's defensive responsibility, but at the same time, like, his length is going to be a problem in summer league for sure, where you don't have the biggest and best players, you just have the young ones and those that need some run, right? So he should be okay, but I would bet points and rebounds. I think if you can get some blocks in there, which some books will be offering that, I think he's going to be getting a good amount of blocks. So anything at like over 1.5 is great. Even if you get over 2.5 blocks for some pretty good plus money, or like at least plus money, for Buzelis. I think he'll be getting some of those blocks. That's what I'm focused on for him. And then for Sebron, a player that I've always liked. I mean, dude is 6'7", man, and he's playing point guard. He's got the handles and the quickness. Just tough for him to really break into the league so far with those Pelicans. Really deep team with a long bench with plenty of guys that can get out there. So now that he's not going back to New Orleans, he's got a shot in Chicago to like do his thing. And honestly, with the way that the Bulls are clearly tanking, might make sense for them to actually give him run during the regular season. So I think he's going to get some good amount of time here in this tourney and should be good for points and assists from playing from that point guard position. Coming in at 22, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. Really only two dudes to talk about here, and one of them is not one that I'm betting on. I'll start with the Rook, AJ Johnson, and that's a big reason why I'm not impressed at all with this Bucks squad. They really reached for AJ Johnson, who was originally seen as maybe getting drafted in the 40s, like mid of the second round almost. Ended up going in the first round to this squad. Still considered a project, though, like not as polished of a game despite the raw athleticism and talent that he has. He doesn't necessarily have a polished enough game to belong in the NBA just yet. I could see him getting more time in the G League this year, honestly, than in the actual NBA, which doesn't really bode well for betting on him at Summer League. So just wanted to make that clear. Just because he's a first round pick, I would be cautious betting on overs for him. You're not going to get much unders, honestly. They mostly do the milestone bets of 15 plus, 20 plus, that kind of stuff. So avoid betting on him unless you can find an over. Sometimes like DFS sites will have those for you. But Andre Jackson's a dude that should be a top 15-ish player at Summer League, if not close to top 10, depending. He's a dude who definitely could be getting time in the league on certain teams. Might be getting some time this year on the Bucks with the way that they will continue to need help in the backcourt on defense around the perimeter, where they struggled a lot last season with obviously having Dame as your key guy out there. The other thing about him is he's probably going to get some blocks and steals. I think he's going to fill up the stat sheet entirely. If you find any of those 1 point, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 block, 1 steal kind of bets, I think he's good for that stuff. You get it at like a plus, let's say 2-1, 3-1 on your money, maybe at least plus 150, something like that. I think those types of bets are worth it for Andre Jackson, who knows he belongs in the league already and is probably going to be not necessarily taking things easy, but looking to get others involved. He can guard all the positions. He'll get as many minutes as they want him to get. But if they're serious about keeping him in the rotation during the regular season, make sure you keep an eye on whether or not he's actually going to get a total, like normal amount of minutes in games. And he probably won't be there second week of Summer League. A team that was a little better last year with the likes of Dyson Daniels on the squad and a few others. We're looking at the Pellies at 21. A couple guys to talk about at least, though. Jordan Hawkins is going to be another sort of top 15 player in Summer League. Definitely top 15, maybe top 10. He was the 14th pick last year. Was pretty good when he actually got on the floor. He's very tall for a guard and at like about 6'6". Really good shooter, as we know. Knockdown shooter that helped UConn win the championship. Also can get to the rim, especially against Summer League competition. He's fast enough and at least big enough and athletic enough to get all the way to the rim on his drives if people do run him off the line. So you can bet points and 3-pointers for him. And then the Rook that they drafted out of Baylor, Yves Missy, 21st overall. Really, it's interesting. He's the only true center on this team. I guess James Earl Robinson is also going to be on the squad, but right now he is it. Like, unless you want to talk about Zion playing small ball center, this is the dude that they probably need during the regular season. Really no offensive game right now, though. A super raw talent in terms of positioning and actual touch around the rim, but will get those boards. He is a beast. He is a dude who loves to bang bodies down low. I think he's going to be good for rebounds in this one. Maybe a double-double is worth it if you find a bet like that for some pretty good money for him as well. But keep an eye on Yves Missy in those boards. I think he's going to be getting a lot of rebounds off the glass. Another team that was really good last year is this Sacramento Kings team until Keegan Murray left, and then they weren't quite as good. But when he was out there, he was a beast last year. Not going to be the same for Keon Ellis, but Keon Ellis is going to be another player that doesn't belong in Summer League, in my opinion. Like, he could legit be a starter for Sacramento if the Kings and Mike Brown decide that they'd rather have a really good defense on the floor instead of offense alongside DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox. Like, Kevin Huerter's been so bad that I don't know why you obviously got hurt by the end of the last season, but he's been bad since he got to Sacramento, straight up. So there's no reason to keep him out there for shooting. If Keon Ellis has improved his jump shot as well at this point, he's going to be in that rotation a lot anyway, might be a starter. So with that in mind, we've got a potential NBA regular season starter playing in the Summer League. He can get his. Now, his offensive game is not polished enough to be like, well, he's just going to, body people and put them in a blender. But he is going to be stronger and faster than most dudes on the floor. And he's going to be able to hit some open shots if they do leave him open from deep, which he's not the best shooter in the world, I'll be honest. But if you give him an open catch and shoot three, he's going to hit it, right? So against poor competition and teams that aren't used to playing defense together, he might be able to get some of those open looks. I think you bet points and assists for Keon and probably some steals if you can find a steal prop for him. He's probably good for over 1.5 pretty consistently in the summer league. And then the other Ellis, we got Boogie, one of my favorite players to watch in college at USC, man. This dude didn't get drafted despite the fact that he led the team in scoring. Bronny got drafted. His teammate, who didn't start, who scored 4 points a game. You get my point. But he's an athletic guard, and he can shoot. He's a little bit undersized. Well, he's definitely undersized, but he can shoot. And that's going to help the fact that he is smaller, because if he starts making some shots, guys got to get out on him, and he can get right by him. So I'm going to be betting points and three-pointers, but there's the possibility that he's running the offense, especially in the second week of Summer League. That's where I'd start looking at assists for Boogie. Cracking the top 20, we get to 19 for the Wizards, and we've got Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr, obviously the number 2 overall pick that we're looking at here. For Bilal, the NBA ready player, man. This is exactly what we're talking about. Second year, he fits this mold of somebody who's going to break out in Summer League, might not be there at the end of Summer League as well, because he is an NBA ready player. I think he showed that against real NBA competition last regular season. He's very athletic, about 6'9" with like a 7'5" wingspan. Dude is going to be all over the floor against much weaker competition than he was facing last season in the NBA. And it's just simply points and rebounds for him, because there's nothing else to say. He's gone up against the best players in the world, and that has more than readied him to dominate this league in Vegas here. And then Alex Sarr, not sure what to bet on, what to expect from him specifically yet on offense. On defense, he's going to continue to be a problem. Really, really good defender for such a young player. Maybe you get some blocks in there, but mostly we're going to be looking at rebounds to start. See if he tries to score by getting to the rim a lot, but I don't know what the point guard play is going to be like for this Washington squad enough to get him the ball, and he's going to need a good point guard to get him the ball in order to score. No Wemby this year and in Vegas for the Spurs. But Stephon Castle ain't bad, man. I'm telling you right now, that 4th overall pick, you probably watched him in March Madness in the championship game for UConn. Really, really I think he's going to be a very solid NBA player. Let's put it that way. He needs to develop a jump shot, so you don't want to take anything around threes, but I think points, rebounds, and assists are all viable for this super tall, athletic, probably more suited to play wing, but because of his handles and his vision and his ability to pass off the drive, which is probably his best attribute, is the ability to be going to the rim and then dish the ball off if he needs to for somebody his size, but also finish as well as anybody at about like almost 6'7" or so, right? So he's going to have a lot of success in this league. I'm pretty confident in it. And then you got David Duke Jr., unfortunate name, but also still a solid player that should be pretty good in this summer league because of how good, especially because of how good he was in the G League last year. He's a pure scorer off the dribble. He's going to be stronger than most of the guards that are trying to take him on in Vegas here. I think you can bet points and assists for him. Maybe some boards. You can see he had 6.5 boards per game in the G League, but feels like everybody had 6.5 boards per game in the G League, to be honest. And call me when someone has 8 to 12 boards. That's when I start to actually care and consider them a pretty good rebounder, right? So I'm not going to take any boards for him, but I am going to take some points and probably some assists if they stay low enough. I think he's a sneaky good passer. On to Detroit, who actually will probably be pretty good. 17th, we're getting to the middle of the pack here. And the two guys that I'm keeping an eye on are Marcus Sasser and Ron Holland. We're not going to see any Jalen Duren. We're not going to see any Oscar Thompson, anything like that. So you are going to get the Marcus Sasser is going to be the best player on this team. And we'll see how Ron Holland does, who big things expected from him in the league this year after a really solid play last year in the G League. But looking at Marcus Sasser, I mean, he's a NBA ready guard. Like he belongs in the NBA. I'm actually surprised that he's going to be in Vegas at all and would not expect him to be there in the second half of the season. Although it makes sense when you consider how many guards are on that team right now. There's not that much room for Marcus Sasser. So they want to get him some run here in Vegas, obviously. But he played legit minutes last year. He started a number of games for Cade Cunningham. Very speedy, really good shooter if you leave him open, athletic enough, and decent court vision. So like not the best point guard in the world, but I think you can still probably get some good value on the assists if you want to bet those for him. But the points and the threes are going to be what I'm looking at for Marcus. And then for Ron Holland, top high school recruit a couple of years ago. He was in the G League last year and chose to go there where he was still really good. 19.5 points and 6.5 boards, more than that. Basically as like a 19-year-old I'll take that from somebody that young in the G League playing against a lot of actual NBA players that do end up circulating through the G League, right? So I think you can bet points and rebounds for Dude. I don't think he'll necessarily have the ball in his hands to play make as much, especially because I think Marcus Sasser will be doing that. But points and rebounds should be available for Ron Holland. This was my favorite summer league team last year, not returning the same level of guys. No more Isaiah Jackson for the Pacers, who come in at 16, and no more. There's a couple other guys last year. I'm already blanking on that. Like even Nembhard, who was the starting point guard and leading scorer for his team in the Eastern Conference Finals, was playing in the Summer League. So keep that stuff in mind. But now we've got a similar situation with Ben Shepherd, who also played and started a game in the playoffs, rather, for the Pacers last season, just 2 months ago at this point. So I'm taking both him and Jarris Walker. Jarris Walker is one of my favorite players, man. I mean, this dude is like 6'7", 6'8", probably like 230, 240, like 235. Beast of a human being, and can move way faster than someone his size should be able to move. I'm telling you, he was the 8th overall pick last year. There was no room for him on a very deep Pacers squad last season, and it's still TBD as to how much time he's going to see this season, but he can show something here in the Summer League and pick some of that up. So I think he's going to be coming to play, and we're going to see him get more minutes in this Summer League than we did last year, because like I said, there were dudes who were playing for this squad last year who were levels above everybody else that they were playing against. He's not necessarily there yet, but he might be. We'll see how big of a jump he took, and 1 year of NBA experience, even though it was limited for Jarris, is going to be enough to, I think, give him the confidence to dominate this year. Points and rebounds for the big man, and some blocks and steals are probably going to be available, especially steals. Like, I watched him pick pockets last year of guards that were 5 inches shorter than him, like it was nothing. Really, really good defender. And then Shepherd, if you watched the playoffs last year, you know he can shoot open corner threes. You know he's pretty athletic going to the rim. He's a good leaper, good rebounder for somebody his size. And I think that's only going to be magnified in this tournament against much weaker competition than the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks, for instance, right? So I think you can take points and threes and rebounds for Ben Shepherd. I don't know quite as much about the assists for him. I don't think he'll be that much of a playmaker, but he'll definitely be good for the boards. The more I'm talking about it, the more I think I do like the assists for him. But I would keep the points, threes, and rebounds as the top bets for Ben Shepherd. At 14, we have a team not going anywhere. They are going to be probably the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I don't even know if I need to say probably. I think they're definitely going to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference this season. However, Noah Clowney is someone that, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised that they signed Nick Claxton the way that they did to that big deal, considering Noah Clowney was impressive when he actually got time as a rookie big man, right? So this second-year player for Clowney, top 10 center at Summer League. I'm definitely giving him that nod as one of the best big men that'll be there. If you look at what he did last season, he was fine during the regular season when he got, 15-ish, 17, 18 minutes in the regular season for the most part. But then in April, when they were completely done actually trying it all, he actually started to get some minutes. He played about 29 minutes per game in the 7 games in April that he played, 12 points per game, 6 boards per game in those 29 minutes. Very impressive for a rookie big man who's playing against legit NBA competition, including some teams that were playing for playoff spots. Like, he wasn't just playing other scrubs, right? Like, he was playing legit NBA players and looked really good doing it, to be honest. Derek Whitehead as well, only played twice last year for Brooklyn, but now that they're in full tank mode, like, I could see him getting a lot more burn this year. And bigger role should mean that they want to test him out at Summer League a bit more as well, giving him the volume, at least, of minutes and time on the floor that you need to pick up stats, right? So I think with his quickness and his ability to, and the fact that he'll be given the keys to the Summer League offense for them and run that offense at point, I think you take the points and the assists for him, because he should be able to get his buckets off, but he also should be good for some dimes, like I said, as the key guy running the offense. The only other guy I want to talk about here, this is a third homie that I wanted to at least put in mention here, because Keon Johnson's a good player, man. And he was someone I was excited to watch last year for Portland in the Summer League, and he got hurt in the first minute of that first game against the Houston Rockets, which was a travesty because so did Amin Thompson on the Rockets, and Scoot got hurt in the first half of that game. So all three of these guys, in a game that was chock full of legit NBA players last year in that Summer League, Keon Johnson was one of those dudes that I think was going to get some legit run for the tanking, crappy Portland Trailblazers, but he was going to get it. Now he's in a similar situation where this team is even worse than the Trailblazers, the Nets, and he should be able to get some legit rotation minutes for Brooklyn this season if he can stay healthy. But he's going to be a big athletic guard who can score off the dribble, and I'm just going to be looking his points prop only. I don't know what else he's going to be bringing. Maybe some boards, but for the most part, I think Noah Clowney is going to dominate the glass, and you can bet on Keon Johnson just for the points. Almost inside the top 10. We got inside the top 15 anyway. Number 14, we got the Hawks. And a couple guys to look at here for the Hawks. They're a pretty decent squad for Summer League, but Zachary Risarche and Kobe Buffkin. Those are the two guys to keep an eye on here. For let's call him Zach. For Zach, number 1 overall pick. We know that. I mean, he's a rim running athlete who should be able to shoot threes as well. I think he's a little better on defense, but that's only because he's really good on defense, to be honest, and fair to his offensive game, which is going to need some work, but he can shoot that thing too. It's a big part of why he was number 1, more so than even Alex Sarr, but he's going to be a little bit of a project on offense. I think you take the threes before the points. And I think you can add the rebounds. Well, I know you can add the rebounds in there as well, and some blocks probably. I should have been a little bit more clear about that here on the slide, but just to be clear, if you're listening, you can add some blocks to that, and I think you can add the rebounds as well and threes. That's where I'm starting with him. We'll see how he looks in his first game out for the Hawks here, and then Kobe Buffkin's a guy who could legit get minutes in this season for Atlanta. He was a 15th overall pick last year. Really good athlete, really good ball handler. Back up to Trey right now and couldn't really crack anything last year. Played a lot in the G League because obviously DeJounte Murray was still there. Bogey was there and healthy for part of the season. So Buffkin wasn't really able to get any serious burn or run last year, but he got enough experience in the G League and was good enough coming out of college that like he could get plenty of minutes this year and could honestly end up getting a lot of big minutes in crunch time or in the role that DeJounte Murray had as the secondary ball handler off of Trae Young. So I think he's good enough to dominate this competition as well. I'll be taking him for points and probably some assists. The Trailblazers. I've got a couple players I like here. 2 on this side. I got 2 more as well for the Blazers. First one's Chris Murray, brother of Keegan. Basically just Keegan Murray light with a left hand. It's just that simple. He's not as good going to the bucket. He's not as strong as Keegan. He's not the shooter that Keegan is. But he does all 3 of those things a little bit worse than Keegan. He's not even the rebounder, to be honest, that Keegan is, even though he probably has an inch or 2 on him at about 6'9" or so for Chris Murray. So either way, I'm taking him mostly for points and rebounds and threes, though. Like if you get a 1.5 3-point prop for Chris Murray, I think he'll be shooting that thing out here because he does need to prove that he can stretch the defense to help out because he's not quite the body down low that he would need to be to justify also not being able to shoot that well. So I think he's going to be pulling a lot to prove his 3-point shot in this one, in this tournament. And then Rayan Rupert as well, a pretty underrated young center who came in last year for Portland and had some nice minutes in the games that he played either for DeAndre Ayton or with DeAndre Ayton as well. When he would get backup minutes, like looked pretty good for such a young center. The experience last season playing against legit NBA competition all year, I think that's only going to translate into him being way better than the other centers here at Summer League for the most part. So we'll take him for some points and the boards, especially the boards. I think a bunch of double doubles are coming for Rayan Rupert. I would also throw in a couple more players for this team because I really like both these guys. Obviously, the number 7 pick, Donovan Kling Kong, if you will. I'm a UConn fan, full transparency. I look at all the UConn players we have in here right now. Bobby Hurley's the man. Anyway, 7th overall pick. Lacks an offensive game, but he will finish around the rim, and he's strong enough and big enough to just dunk that thing on people's heads. So you're going to want to keep an eye on him. If Rayan Rupert also just leaves after the first week of Summer League because he's not really needed anymore and they want Kling Kong to get most of the time, then you'll see the Klingon stuff be even more available in terms of points and rebounds, mostly rebounds and blocks, but the points should be there, especially in the second week of this tourney. And then Terquavion Smith, another player who good player, journeyman who can't really find a team to stick with. And now the Blazers are giving him some burn. Last year in the G League, all you need to know is he scored 23 a game, 3 boards and 4 dimes. So I think you take the points and threes here, but I think you can also add the assists. I think he'll be running that offense for this squad and should be good to get you some dimes as well. 4 more players on the T-Wolves as well that we have to talk about. First 2 are these rooks, and this team's coming in at number 12. But we got Terrence Shannon from the Illini, and we've got the Wildcats 6-man there, Rob Dillingham, right? So for Shannon, if you didn't really watch him play much, he was an incredible in space and transition and with speed going to the basket. Definitely needs to work on his shot, but he's a big guard and he's got some bulk to him that allows him to get to the rim and finish in the air against defenders that are coming at him, right? So because of that, I think you keep it to like points and maybe some boards and maybe the assists. But I want to see what this team looks like because there's a lot of good players on here and some that are definitely already more proven and better than Shannon is. Rob Dillingham, not necessarily more proven necessarily than Terrence Shannon is, but he's the point guard of the future for this team. They traded him at number 8 away from the Spurs because of the fact that they are really putting somebody in line for Mike Conley, who they think can run the offense. He is a microwave scorer, right? Like he was a dude who came in for Kentucky and just put up numbers in a hurry because that's what he was expected to do. He was the spark plug. He's still going to be that in the summer league, but I think they're going to want him to be diming a bit more and show that he can like keep his head and run an offense and sort of be a step ahead of everybody else that's on the floor, which is crucial for a good point guard. So Rob Dillingham to get the assist is going to be a big one in this, especially if we get the first couple lines for him and you see it at like 3.5 assists or anything like that. I think you take the over. I know you take the over for him and you take that all the way until they like make it 6.5 or so for the assist for Rob Dillingham, who I think will be there both weeks as well. And then a couple other guys for Minnesota that were there last year that are two guys I'm really high on, man. And they're not going to have much. One of them might have an opportunity to get some minutes, I should say. Not both of them, but one of these dudes, probably Leonard Miller, probably has an opportunity to come in and fill the Kyle Anderson role for that Slow-Mo is leaving because he just went and signed, I forget where, but he's not on the Dubs, right? He's on the Warriors now. So with that in mind, Leonard Miller, really, really good big man. Very, very good in the G League. Had the 8.5 boards alongside his 19.5 points. Even put up 3 dimes there. So I think you take the points and the rebounds for Leonard Miller. That's not something that I would expect from him. Not necessarily the assist, but the boards. And then Josh Minot, very similar player, maybe a little bit smaller and more versatile with the ball in his hands, but still had 8.5 boards last year as well in the G League and the 17.8 points per game. So I think both these dudes are good for points and rebounds. We'll see if they're there the second week, especially Leonard Miller. They might be because I don't know how much room there is for them on the roster during the regular season, but we're going to take them both to do well when they're actually in there, at least in the first week. On to the 2 years ago defending champs. We got the Nuggets at 11. Strawther. Big things I'm expecting from Julian Strawther. Deron Holmes as well, the rook. But starting with Strawther, sharpshooting playmaker. I think he has a future in this league, especially from what we saw last year. Not sure he'll get the opportunity to do that this year, especially because he's a little bit undersized. And with Jamal Murray as your backcourt point guard and shooting guard and just best guard, you need somebody alongside him who can play D. KCP's gone, but I don't think Strawther's able to move into that. I think he's more of a backup point guard this season, but should be getting 15 to 18 minutes a game or so. And is someone that I think you can already trust to definitely shoot. I mean, he had games last year where he was like, oh my God, Julian Strawther just took over by hitting shots from raining threes. So I think you take the points in the threes, but I also think he's going to be running the offense this year and should be able to do that in the G League, in the Summer League, where he's going to be better than a majority of guards that he goes up against. As far as Deron Holmes is concerned, I think he's NBA ready, honestly. And the Nuggets are really hoping that, they reached a little bit in the first round to get him, or at least they moved up to get him with their first pick in 24, because they need somebody to come in and finally be able to give Jokic a breather, at least on the boards, especially down low, and the defense around the rim. That's what they've always lacked, and they haven't had anybody that can come in and also not be a detriment on offense. See Thomas Bryant, see DeAndre Jordan. Like, those guys are not helping your offense at all. Deron Holmes might be able to. Now, he doesn't really have that polished of an offensive game, but enough, especially with his quickness for a slightly undersized center, he's going to have a pretty good summer league. I'm very confident. So we'll bet him on the points and the rebounds overs in this tourney. Crack in the top 10 before we bring Kareem on here in just a sec to get the last 8 picks that we've got here and talk about a few of those guys. We got the Heat coming in at 10, and these two dudes I think are going to have a very big, each of them is going to have a very big summer league. Kel'el Ware, starting with the rook, who they got at 15. I mean, I get that, like, there are other teams ahead of the Heat here, with the draft picks that they took. Like, maybe they didn't need a center, but this dude, and there was a decent amount of centers. I mean, Edey and Klingon both got picked before him, but he's not far behind those guys, in my opinion. In fact, I think he's going to have a better career than Zach Edey as the center, or at least the backup center, maybe also playing alongside Bam, who, Bam isn't that big anyway. Like, Kel'el Ware can play with him. He was dominant in college. He's already been dominant in the Cali Classic in a few of these early summer league games in Cali, at the Golden One Center in SAC and at the Chase Center in San Francisco. He's played really well. The second game had 26, 11, and 3. First game also had a nice game. It was like 12-9 or whatever it was, but it was still impressive. It was the second game, though, that really started to show people what he's capable of, putting down 26 points in his second ever NBA level basketball game, right? So take him for the points and the rebounds. I think he's going to continue to have a lot of success. If he's too successful and proves that he's already better than Summer League, he might not even be there the second week, but we'll see on that. Cole Swider, a dude who really had a very, very solid year in the G League last year. And you could tell that like the Heat are like, yeah, maybe we'll give Cole Swider a shot. Maybe we'll see what he's capable of. We turned Max Strus into a guy that could dominate a playoff game. Like maybe we can turn that Cole Swider into that, because he is a sharpshooter from deep, and he's got the size to be able to like play and get his shot off against most people, even in the NBA, much less the G League. In the G League last year, he averaged 4.8 threes per game. He led the G League in a lot of those 3-point categories, including like he was taking like 10 threes a game, right? So this dude is a sharp shooter. Take him for the points and the threes. We'll see if the assists are there for him, because I've never really trusted him to be a playmaker, but definitely the points and the threes for Swider. Lastly, here we've got the Charlotte Hornets, number 9. That's going to be the last one, but before I bring Kareem on for the top 8. Brandon Miller is probably the best player at Summer League. I say might be, but like I've just gone through all the other players I'm looking at, and I don't know who's better than Brandon Miller in this Summer League. So there's no way we're seeing B Miller in the second week. We might not see him after the first 2 games of Summer League, and even in those, not sure how many minutes he's going to get. But at least for the first one, let's go ahead and bet him to get like 25 plus points at least. That's probably going to be close to even money, if not even a little bit minus, at like minus 105 or 110. So we'll see. But I think 25 plus in the first one is just something you can go ahead and hit for Brandon Miller. Likely only playing that first week. If you need to know more about him, just go watch him on the Charlotte Hornets last year, where he was very good for a rookie who actually exceeded what I expected, what I think a lot of expectations were, even though he was the number 2 overall pick. Nick Smith Jr., another dude who I'm actually looking forward to watching this season. And in the new coach's regime, Cliff Lee, I'm getting that wrong, but it is Lee, not Cliff Lee, the former pitcher for the Phillies. Either way, Charles Lee, thank you, Charles Lee. He is going to be coming in with a new system for Charlotte, and that is going to be all about pace and space. None of this choppy, weird. I don't even know what Charlotte's been doing for the last 5 to 6 years, but either way, now they've got a lot better of a core. I will say that. Plus, Nick Smith, really good backup guard, if not playing alongside LaMelo this season. So I think, the threes are what you want to take for him in Summer League. If he's still there, especially without Miller, I think the assists are going to be huge for him as well. And the points, you can take that. He's just going to keep shooting, playing well in space, driving to the rim in transition, and shooting a ton of threes. He had the highest 3-point percentage amongst rookies last year, who shot the ball at least 125 times from deep. So we're going to take Nick Smith Jr. a bunch in this tournament. I'm very confident. Let's start with number 8. This is your top 8 here, and I want to take some credit for it too, because I don't want to just leave you on an island as it's your own. But let's get into number 8 for you.
Yeah, so we had Toronto as the first team in the top 8, so number 8. I think, like, when you think about best Summer League rosters, there's 5 guys who I think are like quite good players on this team. So you got Ochai, Grady Dick, Javon Freeman-Liberty. You got the rookie from San Fran, Jonathan Mogbo, Jamal Shed from Houston, and Jacoby Walter from Baylor. So I think when you have a good top 6 like that, you'll be probably a pretty good team in Summer League. I'm like not super high on, like, they don't have a star in my opinion. Like Grady Dick is not, he's going to be a plus player in Summer League, but he's just limited in what he does. So I think that's why we have him sliding in at 8 here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think, we'll go through it. 8 is probably fair. I think if you were going to push them one way, though, I would say that they could go up. I think the G League does seem to be somewhat of enough of a sort of like transferable. It's equal enough to what the level of competition is in Summer League, that like you can glean some stuff from Summer League or from the G League the year before and see how guys do. I think another thing too, for a guy like Grady Dick and Ochai Agbaji, like more Agbaji than Grady Dick, but they got enough time at the NBA level last year that like It's almost like I don't know what the exact equation is, but like 1 minute of NBA action is almost worth like 5 in the G League in terms of how much you're going to progress as a player, because it's a completely different game. So when you get a guy like Agbaji, who you're like, he's never going to step on a regular season court unless he's playing like the Wizards and be like a top 5 player on the court. But like in this league, he's always going to be
you're the best dude on the court.
Yep. Precisely. So with that in mind, you might not have stars in the NBA, but I bet you we're going to see Grady Dick pull off more passes in the lane than he would ever be able to even get into the lane, because he'll actually be able to drive by a few of these defenders that'll fly by him. Right. Yep. So I totally agree with this. I'll be betting some Grady Dick threes. I might, if you give me like 3.5, 2.5 assists for Grady, I might throw that in there. Like, I have no problem with that stuff. And then for Javon Freeman Liberty too, I think that you mentioned him, like G League stud for sure. So like he can run an offense in the summer league in a way that I'd be looking for some stuff from him as well. But let's move on to number 7 here.
Cool. So coming in here at 7, we had the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I like this.
Craig Porter Jr. did great when he played in the NBA. Like he didn't just get minutes like Agbaji or Dick, but like he was a well-rounded player who did a lot of things. I think he'll be one of the best players in Vegas this year. Amani Bates is a great shooter, so he's gonna. I think he was great in summer league last year, and like you said, he got some NBA reps, so he'll be even better this year. I think they either won summer league last year, or they were runner-ups.
They won it, And to be fair to that, that's one more little takeaway from summer league. The best players don't play the second week.
Yep.
Brandon Miller's not going to be there the second week, etc. Right?
Yeah,
so like Imani Bates was a money player to have to win summer league, because he's staying for the whole thing, and he's definitely, he was also a much better player than where he got picked because of some behavioral issues. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yep. So that's good. I think you're looking at player props to bet both those top 2 guys. I think we'll get a lot of volume.
Yeah, and I'm just going to throw some caution about the other 2 dudes that I have listed that I was looking at, which is DJ Burns. Everybody loves the big man down low from NC State. Not necessarily going to transfer into the NBA. I would just keep that in mind, that the gimmick of being that much heavier than everybody isn't really going to pan out in the league. And the other one is the rook from Cal, the Jalen Tyson as well. Like, just not quite NBA ready from a lot of the stuff that I can see from him, a little bit of film and reading about it. So just because you recognize certain guys' names doesn't mean that they're already ready to be dominant in summer league. That's the caution I would throw there. But let's keep it moving. Let's get to number 6 here, which is your beloved Boston Celtics.
I also wanted to shout you out, Josh, for being one of the first to congratulate me of my non-Celtics NBA friends when they won.
I didn't mean
there
it.
There are a lot of close people in my life who still are holding out on me, but I appreciate that. I just think
no doubt.
This is if these guys open at like 50-1 to win summer league, I will bet on it, because to your point, there's no stars, so there's no Brandon Millers who are going to play 2 games, and these guys are like good, and they're part of a good system. Like, even the summer league Celtics they're gonna be shooting a lot of high value shots. They're going to stay away from mid-range and efficient shots. So, I mean, Keita has been good in summer league forever, and he's back on the roster. Jaden Springer will be one of the better defenders, and he'll play really well. Jordan Walsh, I think, is an undervalued guy who was a really good player in the G League for them a lot of last season. And these guys are getting, they're in their development program like all summer while they're making a run at the finals. Like, these dudes are going to practice and they're getting their time. So like a lot, like Jordan Walsh is going to be really good. He was good in summer league last year. Shireman, their rookie, can shoot it. You got Davidson, Peterson, Ramsey. These are guys who have played well in the G League. The Celtics G League team is always one of the better G League teams. So I just really like the roster, and I think they'll do really well in this environment.
Totally. I think you guys stole Baylor Shireman. I really do. Like, I really think he's going to have a Joe Ingles type career. And I'm not just comparing 2 hefty lefties who are white, but like the white part isn't relevant here. It's the lefty part that is the reason he looks like Joe Ingles. And look, if he does the same stuff, like, you need a 3, I'm great. He's going to be a top 3 3-point shooter, except for on that team. But on other teams in the NBA, he'd already be like a top 3, top 4 3-point guy for them. And then the rebounding is super impressive. Not going to be as good in the league, but and then the ability to pass. That's the most Joe Ingles thing about him, is like he's that big and can pass and do all that stuff. So love that. Love Jaden Springer. He would have cracked rotation on other teams that weren't the best team in the league and one of the best teams in recent history for Boston. And then, yeah, Kada was like a legit, I thought he was going to start getting real minutes on the Kings a few years ago.
Yeah.
A legit NBA rotation. He's the perfect example of a dude who might be a fringe actual rotation guy, but is worth the 10th spot on your bench on every team in the league, and is going to be better than, 85% of the big men that he's going up against in this summer league. So I'm with you on the C's. I'm also pretty high on them. Springer, I'll be betting. I think I'll get some PRA in there for Baylor Shireman as well. And then Kada, all the rebounds and definitely some easy points on the putbacks as well. I don't think we'll see Kada very much in the second week either, but who knows, because he's not cracking that rotation in Boston.
Yeah.
So that'll be tough. But let's move it on, and let's get into a team that made us some money on futures last year, Orlando and the Magic. We'll be getting into futures here, I'm sure, in August. But like Magic winning the Southeast was pretty nice payout for the kids over here.
That's right. Yeah, I think this is a good. They're a really young team. Anthony Black will, I think, make a big step this year. You talked about the importance of NBA experience. That dude was playing every game, right? Yep. So like he's also super young. Really, this team is very deep. Like they're 10 deep of guys who I think are really good players. So like if they go to the bench and they're playing other teams' benches, I think that they'll stretch a little bit. So that's a good live betting opportunity. Charlie Brown Jr., Jet Howard, De Silva, Xavier Moon. Maladon is like, a lot of people think of him
Maladon,
but like he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
real quick with Anthony Black, they were 19 and 14 in the games that he started for the Magic this season. So he's not a detriment in any way.
No, not at all, man. And I think he'll be more comfortable in this environment too. So
yeah, it's really like, quick story. This kid used to play at the Rec with us at Mizzou, and he was like 6'9" and really good. His senior year rather, they asked him to walk onto the team, right? Because they wanted his younger brother to get recruited by them. He was good. He was one of the best big men in the league, but we always played them in the championship, and our big man was able to take him on. He goes and plays on the end of the bench for the University of Missouri basketball team for 6 months. Comes back to the Rec, is the best player in the Rec. Yeah. So that's the equivalent of what we're talking about when you get those types of minutes in the NBA. You come to summer league and you're like, this is my gym now.
And it's not just right. You're getting in the strength and conditioning program, right? You're getting everything. So
precisely. Yeah. So yeah, we're all on the same page there. I love this Orlando team. Is first of all, Xavier Moon might be the dude who's been the longest tenured G League player. It's he, maybe Big Body Roddy. There's some guys in here who have been like 4 to 5 years of summer league means you're probably not quite made for the league. But Jet Howard shooting, we'll see how that goes this year as well. Really good G League player for him. And then I can't believe Jared Culver's even on this team, who probably is past his ability. He's probably going to wear that bust tag for a while at this point. But he was a 6th overall pick, and they're still giving him, a little bit of burn. So we'll see how that goes for them. Like this Orlando team this year, like them again, obviously, to win this division. But that's for another time. Let's talk about Memphis, who I know just did you dirty by just not starting all their players in the Salt Lake City game. But that means they're probably going to leave some guys out the rest of the Salt Lake City trip so they can play in Vegas.
Yeah, which is a good sign for their Vegas prospects. I mean, I don't like Trey Jemison, who was playing minutes for them and doing pretty well down the stretch, is like their 6th best guy here. Yep. Like Jackson, Pippen Jr., Edie, LaRavia, they're all good players. I think, like Cam Spencer, your boy, who's playing really well tonight. So I'll probably upgrade him a little bit, my ratings. But yeah, great team. I think.
This is loaded. Like this is definitely a team that I looked at and was like, this might be the best roster, like 1 through 5 in the G League. And we'll talk about these top 4, but like we always knew it was going to be this since last season, when basically the dudes that are playing in the G League right now played the last like 30 games for Memphis last season. Come on, man. This team should dominate, right?
Love that. And so I could actually see them moving to number 3. The team I have 3 right now is Golden State.
4. Oh no, you're right. We're on 3.
Yeah. Memphis is 4. I think Golden State is 3, but big caveat here is you got Trace Jackson Davis and Pajemski, who I could definitely see playing like 1 game in Vegas.
They're on the Olympic team.
Yeah, they actually said they were going to play tomorrow. So that'll be a good game against the Kings A team tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you'll see him that much. So I think if they do play, they should be rated just up there with every other team. You got Guy Santos too. So
let's assume that they're not, though. So like B-Pod, JV, and Guy Santos, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that Guy Santos is a player tells you something. But like after that, it ain't nothing.
Yeah, so, I mean, you got like Pat Spencer and Ethan Thompson have played really well
in the G League
in these first two summer league games too. But yeah, that's a great example of like how fickle the summer league markets are, because like those two guys are probably worth 8 points to a spread.
Easy.
Or not.
Easy. Easy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, this is out of control. So Golden State is a huge asterisk, and they could go literally from third best team in the summer league to like 11th, if not further down. To be honest with you, because that's the gap right there. That's what we're talking about here. So, all right. So number 2 then is a team that, first of all, do you think the Rockets are going to surprise people in the regular season?
I'm low on them in the regular season.
Okay, we're on the same page here. My thing is like, just look at who they played when they went on their winning streak. Don't tell me they're better. First of all, anybody that says that they're better without Şengün, we're done talking. We're not having basketball conversations anymore. And then the second part is they beat the Pistons 3 times when they won 8 games in a row. What are we doing, people? Now we're going to say they're going to win the West. Like, what's happening?
Yeah. No, I think, and everyone's like, Udoka's such a good coach. Like, come on, man.
Come on. Yeah. What are we doing? But this squad that they're bringing, pretty stacked. There's some interesting players on here. Obviously, Cam, Reed Shepherd, and then the guys that really intrigue me are Nate Hinton, Jermaine Samuels, and AJ Griffin. So what do you think about this?
I mean, they played deep into summer league last year, and this feels like a better version of everyone. And you're adding like probably the best rookie for this environment, and Reed Shepherd, just because Risa Shea and Sarr, I don't think they're as ready to contribute as Reed Shepherd. Like, that dude is an absolute stud. And like, he's going to light it up, man. Going to make people around him better. Like, Whitmore is a star of summer league, and he's like the Michael Jordan of summer league.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, man. I just think this team, and like I said, we saw like Kira Lewis is like their 8th best guy, and he was the number 13 pick a little while ago.
Yeah. I hate calling people scrubs because they're in the NBA. But as far as NBA level scrub goes, Kira Lewis is off my list. Like I've gone to meetings, like anonymous meetings, to like get over my addiction to the idea that he's going to be good someday. I finally got over it. It was like, it ain't gonna happen, man. It ain't gonna happen with Kira. We got to give him the bus tag.
This is honestly like a summer league all-star team. Like,
it is.
Orlando Robinson, who had dropped like 30 something with the Heat last year in summer league. Like, I would I don't know. I might have to move them to number 1.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
If Cam Whitmore play, and Cam Whitmore might play, he's still pretty low on that bench for Houston this year.
Yeah.
So Cam Whitmore probably still going to get some burn, so they can keep him at least a little bit happy for a little bit when he's not playing the beginning of the season in Houston, to be honest. So that might be part of it. Nate Hinton and Jermaine Samuels were incredible in the G League, just filling up all of the stats, both really good, mostly wing. I guess Hinton does play a little bit, more up top and a little bit more of a playmaker, but like both really good players. And AJ Griffin was probably going to be pretty good as like a Sadiq Bey-esque player. And then he got hurt, and so we'll see. He can still play 3 and D, but Reed Shepherd 3s, Cam Whitmore to the moon, and then keep an eye on Nate Hinton and Jermaine Samuels and AJ Griffin. That's how I would be looking at the Rockets for this season. It's crazy that Amin is so good. We're probably not even going to see Amin Thompson at this point.
Yeah, he's not on the roster.
Nah, he's already it. So, all right. That means top team in the league, which was also really good last season, according to you, is
Utah Jazz, man. I mean, this is like their regular season starting 5.
Just missing marketed at this point.
Yeah. I mean, who didn't play, right? So you got Keontae George, Hendricks, Kessler, Sensabaugh. They all started like multiple games towards the end of the season. And then their number 10 pick, Cody Williams.
Yeah.
And we didn't even mention like Summer League MVP Kenny Lofton Jr. I mean,
he might not get minutes. That's the only thing to also keep an eye on is teams like Utah have legit like 9 to 10 players that they'd love to work out. And like, Kenny Lofton Jr. playing in Summer League is obviously it's a huge downgrade from Walker Kessler, but like they're doing slightly different things. We all know Kenny Lofton, the size of him and everything he can do. So like, he's a summer league MVP, like you said. This is the bar for summer league competition. Is this starting lineup? Yeah. So I'm with it. Yeah, I'll be betting some stuff. Careful with Keontae George. Yeah, I think he's a top 2-3 player. I would have thrown Charlotte in here as well. Just some honorable mentions that I would give out. And I'm going to go through some of these players as well here in a sec for everybody. So I can go through some of the more specific players that I also want to look at on the other like 20-ish teams that we're talking about. But just keep an eye on Charlotte because Nick Smith Jr. is already good enough to like light it up, right? And then you've got Brandon Miller, who I think is the best player at the Summer League. And then Leaky Black really turned it, like his offensive game was incredible in the G League. I know he was more of a defender at UNC and sort of like a long athlete that played great in space, but like he also like turned into a shooter in the G League. And so that's the last piece of advice once again, is like, don't be afraid to literally go to the G League stats from last season, see who did really well and is going to be playing in this year's Summer League, and it's transferable. I think it's a really solid comparison, right?
Yeah, 1000%.
For sure. Well, I appreciate the time, my dude. I'm glad we got through some of these teams. We'll be betting some stuff together there in Vegas, I'm sure.
Sounds
so
great.
We'll get it then, and hope to have you on during the regular season too. And we'll actually do our preseason stuff if you're down.
Yeah, man. Preseason stuff was incredible last year. We had we did quite well. So
highlighted by OKC 1 seed and
35-1.
35-1 on that. I got it 20-1, and then the Magic I got 10-1, which was beautiful. Yeah. So good stuff, man. All right, have a good rest of the day. We'll talk soon.
All right, Josh.